U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that the U.S. will send an additional 5,000 troops to Poland, a week after the Pentagon canceled a planned deployment of 4,000 troops. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the decision was based on the election of Karol Nawrocki as president, who he endorsed during elections last year. It was not clear whether the additional troops were part of the previous planned deployment or a different operation. The announcement raises more uncertainty as the White House has signaled in recent weeks that it intends to reduce the overall troop levels in Europe. Earlier this month, the U.S. also announced it would withdraw 5,000 troops from Germany after a row between Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz over the war with Iran. NATO chief Mark Rutte welcomed Trump's decision on Friday to send additional troops to Poland ahead of a meeting of alliance foreign ministers in Sweden.
Russia says it has delivered nuclear munitions to field storage facilities in Belarus as part of major nuclear drills. Authorities on both sides released what they described as, quote, video evidence, a clip showing military vehicles driving into a forested area at an undisclosed location and missiles being loaded onto launchers. The Belarus Defense Ministry said the video shows the delivery of nuclear munitions to field storage points in the operational area of a missile unit in the country as part of military exercises. The 3-day nuclear drills, which started on Tuesday, are taking place across Russia and Belarus at a time when the Baltic states continue to be rattled by repeated drone incidents. On Tuesday, Russia's defense ministry announced that the exercises, which ran until Thursday, involved 64,000 military personnel and 7,800 pieces of equipment. Ukraine's security service said on Thursday that in response to the drills, Kyiv is stepping up security measures in northern regions to prevent Russian and Belarusian forces from infiltrating border areas and carrying out, quote, sabotage and terrorist acts.
A day after Lithuania's capital of Vilnius was under a drone incursion and people were warned to take cover, Lithuania's defense minister Robertas Kaunas told Euronews that Europe must be prepared for the high probability that more will come. In the past 3 weeks, the region has seen at least half a dozen similar incidents. Kaunas says Lithuania is already increasing its air defense.
We're investing a lot in our air defense capabilities. New radars are coming. Part of them are already in Lithuania. Interceptor drones. Air defense experts from Ukraine arriving to Lithuania to help us enhance our air defense capabilities.
Kaunas says that Lithuania needs to invest 5.3% of its GDP in its national defense, the highest amount among all NATO countries. Wednesday's drone incursion, which was a possible Ukrainian drone jammed by Russia, was the first major alert that sent residents and political leaders in a EU and NATO capital rushing to shelters since Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
Republican lawmakers struggled on Thursday to find the votes needed to dismiss legislation that would compel U.S. President Donald Trump to end his war in Iran, delaying planned votes on the matter into June. Members of the U.S. House of Representatives were set to vote on Trump's use of the 1973 War Powers Resolution. The War Powers Resolution Act allows presidents to proceed with military action without requiring congressional approval for 60 days. After the 2-month period, the military campaign is then brought to Congress for an official vote. Democrats say the vote was pulled after Republicans in the chamber realized it was set to pass. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries called Republican lawmakers, quote, cowards, for pulling the vote he says they knew they would lose. In a statement with other caucus leaders, he accused them of refusing to be held accountable to the American people. Republicans, however, refute that narrative, saying the vote was simply postponed to give lawmakers who were absent a chance to cast their say. Trump, speaking to reporters in the Oval Office on Thursday, appeared unfazed as he again reiterated threats to resume the war if Tehran fails to reach a deal with Washington.
A nuclear war in the Middle East.
In France, the investigation into sexual abuse in Parisian after-school programs is gaining momentum. On Wednesday evening, 16 people who worked at the Saint-Dominique State Nursery School in the capital's 7th arrondissement had their police custody extended. The operation was praised by Paris Mayor Emmanuel Grégoire, who initiated a plan to combat sexual abuse in after-school programs. Aged 18 to 68, the suspects are being questioned regarding acts ranging from rape to behavior described as excessive or violent. Since the beginning of 2026, 78 municipal employees have been suspended, including 31 for suspected sexual violence. The case took on new significance following revelations published on Monday by local newspaper Le Parisien. It reported that a staff member indicted in 2025 for sexual abuse of 3 minors at a Parisian school had already been taken into custody in 2024 for similar incidents reported at a neighboring facility. Emmanuel Grégoire is now promising to impose sanctions, tighten up recruitment procedures, and improve the traceability of staff.
A small green piece of paper. Whoever received it was told to report to a gymnasium to clarify their residency status. But what followed changed the lives of thousands of people forever. On the 14th of May, 1941 in Paris, on orders from the SS and the Gestapo, the French police arrested around 3,800 Jewish men and later deported them to camps. Today, an exhibition at the French embassy in Berlin commemorates this first major roundup of Jews in occupied France and for the first time showed the faces of the victims.
Toutes ont un sens et surtout, elles sont notre mémoire. Notre mémoire et peut-être notre futur. Ça, c'est une preuve irrévocable de ce qui s'est passé. J'avais 6 ans, j'ai vu mon père pour l'avant-dernière fois et je suis très heureuse d'être encore d'un certain âge et de pouvoir parler de ce qui s'est passé.
98 photographs. For decades, they were considered lost, but in 2020, they were rediscovered. The man behind the camera, Harry Kroner, a Berlin photographer who through his father is himself of Jewish descent. Ironically, he was assigned by a member of the SS and the head of the Gestapo's Jewish Affairs Unit to document the raid. But Kroner did not photograph the men as an anonymous mass, but as human beings with faces and dignity.
Was wir als Claims-Konferenz möchten, ist zu sagen, dass die Erinnerung ein ganz wesentlicher Bestandteil ist für das heutige soziale, gesellschaftliche Leben. Und was wir hier heute sehen, sind Beginne, die es auch damals gegeben hat. Und deswegen möchten wir sagen, dass die Erinnerung nicht etwas ist, was nur in der Vergangenheit ist, sondern uns auch heute konkret betrifft.
The project aims to connect and strengthen European remembrance efforts. Liliane Reisfeld regularly speaks with students about her story. This gives the 91-year-old hope for a peaceful future for coming generations.
80 ans après, je me suis souvenu de la robe que je portais, petite fille, quand j'ai accompagné mon père et ma mère à la police. Et c'est étrange parce que pendant des années, je n'ai jamais pensé à ce vêtement. Et j'ai eu un flash un jour. J'avais une robe bleue avec des smocks et des fantaisies sur une robe. Et ce souvenir m'est revenu 80 ans ou 85 ans après.
The exhibition, titled Faces of Memory, is on display at the French Embassy in Berlin until the 9th of July.
For the first time, Athens is hosting a major exhibition dedicated to the extraordinary artist and performer Tilda Swinton, whose unforgettable screen presence has captivated audiences for decades. In the exhibition ongoing, Swinton brings together costumes, personal objects, photographs, and film excerpts linked to the creative collaboration and friendships she has developed over the past 40 years with 8 influential figures from cinema and fashion.
What seems to happen is you're a young, emerging artist, you've had your first album, your first collection, your first film, your first book. You got there out of a web of friendship, a web of your family, a web of your university, your art school, your college, whatever. And then you're encouraged, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, by the record label or the gallerist or the film studio to just go solo, to just separate yourself. It's important for you to brand yourself as a commodity. And so I thought, my show at I. This is what I could maybe offer as some way of being useful. A portrait of a different way of working, which happens to be accurate to my story.
The exhibition is a collaboration between Onassis Tegi and I Film Museum, where it was first presented. The acclaimed actress shares with visitors the defining moments and collaborations that have shaped her artistic journey, from her early work with Derek Jarman to her more recent projects with Pedro Almodóvar.
Derek Jarman always used to say, prepare to go to the set as if you're going to a party. And that was really how it was. And as we all know, a good party is a party, you don't want the host to be completely responsible for the energy in the room. You don't want a bunch of guests who stand around waiting for the host to tell them how to have a good time. A good party is shared, the energy is shared with everybody. Somebody puts on the music, somebody pours the drinks, somebody brings the food.
Tilda Swinton Ongoing runs until June 28th and is accompanied by a summer rooftop film screening program at Onassis Ready Cultural Center.